Okay, everybody. We are live and we're back with another Lab Coat Agents webinar. My name is Nick Baldwin, co-founder of Lab Coat Agents. I'm here with Kyle. He is the industry principal at Lone Wolf. And today we're going to talk about mastering your buyer presentations so you can get agreements signed every time, not some of the time, but every time. So if you're struggling to get buyer representation agreements signed, you're definitely not alone. Buyers are looking for value, just like your sellers are looking for value. If they see value in you, they will sign on the dotted line. We want to learn how to turn a potential buyer into a committed client, and it's a critical skill to have. And this webinar is designed to show you exactly how to do it. So I'm glad you're here for this insightful session where you're going to learn a proven 3-step framework for success. And Kyle and Lone Wolf, they have created essentially a piece of tech that helps you build a great buyer consultation or presentation, whatever you want to call it, because it's something I don't feel enough agents are using. They're doing listing consultations, but they're still not doing enough buyer consultations. So I'm excited to see you guys have partnered with Cloud CMA and you've created something pretty sweet. So let's dive right in. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. We're about 13 months from obviously 8/17, where everyone had to get those buyer broker agreements signed. And so there's been a lot of traction and, a lot of things going on for the past year on how to actually get this accomplished. But we, to your point, we felt that there were still some needs that to have buyer agents do a better job of explaining their value. And so using our award-winning Cloud CMA tool set and its ease of use to kind of do that seller presentation, we felt that it would be important, and it was asked. A lot of our customers said, "Hey, can you do something like this for when we're talking to our prospective buyers?" In that now we actually have to get this agreement before we take them out, and you have to actually tell them what you're going to be performing and why they're going to sign up to pay you if that compensation doesn't come from the different areas. So with that, I do have a slide, and we'll kind of take a look here really quick. Just make sure I can share. Let's see, here we go. All right, you should see my screen.
Yep, it's logging in right now. There we go.
All right, good deal. So yeah, to your point, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've done to really help smooth that process when you're talking to a buyer in a buyer, a buyer presentation. So right now, when we talk to a lot of the agents out there, with the kind of that new requirement that we've talked about, having that conversation is a little bit more difficult because you're talking about how the buyer broker gets paid at the beginning, and you're having to put that out in front, and you have to get that agreement signed so that you are in compliance. And so many of the buyer agents weren't comfortable doing that. You have some that are really good at it, and they've been doing it for a long time. And a lot of states, obviously, you had some sort of requirement, at least at the closing, you had to have it, but now with it across the board, short of maybe, Alabama, you really have to do a good job of going through and talking to this. And further, a lot of the, the media outlets, your buyers are more educated because they see all of these headlines and they see this stuff going on, and they say, well, wait a second, am I paying you too much, or who's paying, and how's this working? And so that part of the discussion comes up, more often than it has, in the past. So being able to kind of lay out what all is being done. You're not just taking them to a property and opening the door for them. There's a lot that a buyer agent actually goes through when working with a buyer. And, from the negotiation to all of the paperwork, to all the behind the scenes things, to making sure that all of the items throughout, prior to closing are completed and nothing goes off the hinges, So, really being able to convey what you're doing is important. So focusing on demonstrating, that value instead of just chasing the signature.
That's a good point. They can smell that commission breath.
Yeah, and then and I don't know if you've had it. I know that you. I think you said you just started getting back into practicing again. Do you work with buyers or mostly listings?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I'm back into production, I'm working with anybody. So,
Anybody?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to be picky. Just getting back into production in a new state. That'd be silly if I was just picky. But eventually, I would transition over to listings as time goes on. But yeah, you got to have that buyer. I have a great buyer consultation. It's built out, and it explains a lot about the NAR situation, which I think helps. But I'm excited to see what you guys are doing because maybe I'll switch over and test this out.
Yeah. So it is. So basically, using the Cloud CMA framework, and many of you who have used Cloud CMA before or are familiar with a CMA in general, but Cloud CMA obviously makes it quick and easy to put a beautiful presentation together to show the listing owner basically that you know what you're talking about and why you should be awarded the listing. Similarly, this is the flip side of that. So it makes it very easy to educate the buyers again, a lot of them hear noise, but you're the professional. And so as a realtor, you should be able to be the most educated and be able to educate the buyers in a simple fashion about what the new standards mean, why they're having to actually sign something up front. And you really become more of a trusted advisor to them because you're the one who is providing, clarity on what's going on when they're about to enter into, one of their biggest transactions that they'll ever encounter in most people's life. So getting them to commit, a lot of times that's a scary proposition because in the past, you didn't really have to have this. You could just start showing properties to whomever, and it was very simple. So now having to actually back up and take this step and get them to actually sign, asking for that signature. That's a step that a lot of times, was tricky. It's tricky for a buyer because you're basically saying, hey, you need to trust me to take you through this process and potentially put out a lot of money for that. So having that, building that trust really is good in the long term because you're proving to that person that you are a professional. And so if there's a more likelihood if you're doing a good job at education and providing value and really conveying the process to the potential customer, they're more highly likely to provide referrals to you, to have friends and family to describe the experience that they just went through that might be different than someone who bought 2 years ago or 5 years ago, where they can, say, hey, this agent actually explained everything up front in a clear, and concise way so that, they understood what's going on and they can educate their friends and family when talking about, the home purchasing process. So, securing that agreement obviously is critical. So 3 steps. So first one that we kind of have put together is really proving your value. So communicating your expertise and unique benefits that you as the buyer broker provide. So you can customize that. So each agent, each realtor has a different approach and in their value set and their value proposition to what they're bringing to the table. So the ability for you to curate that and really have a bespoke selection of what you're looking for is important. But with that said, we also have a lot of content built in. So if you need help to really show what you've done, there's a lot of the pieces of the process that are very similar. There's some things that are unique, but a lot of that is same for the agent. So we have a lot of content built in so that you're not having to create everything from scratch to create a really nice buyer, proposal. And then you can always tweak it. You can pull things out. You can insert things that are more specific to your brand and to your value prop. But really proving that value is important to do kind of upfront. Informing of the process. So this is, again, what I was talking about before, but because of the process has changed and there's a lot of noise where non-agents, people that are not in the industry or haven't transacted in the past 13 months, have went through a different experience, to say the least. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of things that are, incorrect, and really informing and educating the buyer just continues to create that value, but also build trust so that they stay with you throughout that process, and and take more of your advice. It makes the actual relationship better between the realtor and their buyer. And then when you go to actually present the agreement, they're much more inclined to go ahead and accept that agreement and provide their signature, which is a next step. It kind of locks them in. I think I've talked to agents, and I don't know, Nick, if you've had this experience, but there seems to be less maybe looky-loos or agent, or basically buyers that maybe aren't quite as serious. I know that obviously getting pre-qualified has been something out there for a long time, but this kind of goes hand in hand with that, because when you're signing that agreement, it puts that extra onus of, hey, I'm serious about this. We are actually going to move forward with this process. So that's kind of the 3 steps that we have outlined. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Nick, on if there's things.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of times what agents might be doing is they're making that agreement kind of a big deal, and it's not a big deal. And so presenting it as part of the package, just in a very casual way, I think would be much more effective. A lot of times they're like saving it for the end, and they're like, okay, well, here we go. This is the big agreement. You know what I mean? Like they get nervous about having someone sign it when it just needs to be common, just like human nature.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I actually had someone who, and that's part of this agreement. They actually moved it to the front, to your point, and it was almost like the first step is, and there was some mixed success there, but it puts it out there where it's like, hey, this is part of it. This is part of the process. You sign this agreement, and then we'll take you through everything that we're going to do for you and everything like that. Now, doesn't mean they necessarily sign it, but at least that that piece of it is up front. The expectation is you have to sign this, and this is all the things we're going to do for you. So yeah, I think you're right about not making it as big a deal as it is. But that goes back to the education and some of the agents that changed the way that they had to do business, for years and years, and maybe made it into a bigger point. No, take that for sure. So, the first thing, make signing easy, highlight your focus, why you are the right one to represent them. The area, your market, success stories. A lot of people love putting quotes, testimonials. We have partnerships with some other of the rating systems that you may or may not use, where you can actually plug in those from the various ratings that make it super easy to get quotes and pull quotes and things like that. And then any content that really highlights how you as the realtor are a professional in the area that you're serving. That is key to making sure that that this road is really busy, and we're not going to make sure that that in that presentation, so that they're not caught off guard, or you just share that you basically have a lot more knowledge about the area than than maybe they do. Buyer presentation in Cloud CMA makes it super easy to show and highlight where you're looking. So if somebody has various markets that they're looking for, you can use that search so that you can basically identify various neighborhoods and price points, so that when you are presenting, they can see, and it very professional looking on, oh man, that person knows what they're talking about. That agent, that realtor has a market-driven approach. They can understand what's going on, where the prices are falling, where the prices are, fit the area that I'm looking for, and all of the metrics that I'm, looking to buy in. And so that's where, using this tool just makes it super easy. And it's cool because you can use it either in a printed. So if you're going to a presentation and you're doing it with them, you can, have it all in advance, or you can pull it up on an iPad. And that's what a lot of people do. Just do a live time, hey, where are we looking at? Let's go through this, and kind of an interactive experience. We actually rolled that out when a lot of folks were doing, the Zoom presentations and some of that. So we, have extended that ability, right on live time in the iPad. You also have something to give them and leave with them that kind of highlights all of your experience and all of your things there. So I did want to actually point out something for Lab Coat agents. As always, we have a special. So anyone who is would like to check this out, and I know it just popped up here in a minute ago, but keep an eye right at the bottom, and it has the discount code for Lab Coat agents. So be sure and check that out. So next, so again, client relative property. So lots of ways in identifying specifically the types of property that the person is looking for, built right into that presentation. So, hey, they're signing that agreement, but part of that, let's go ahead and start searching. You've already searched. Let's find something. Let's look for others in that area. You know what you're doing.
So you can search in real time throughout during the presentation.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So it's tied right in, and you can pull right up the map. You can see the houses. You can pinpoint what they're looking for. It's all built into that tool.
There's a question in the chat. I'm not exactly sure what Dimitri, if I'm saying that right, means. Could buyer presentations be created via API? I don't see the option in the API docs. I'm not 100% sure what that question means. Do you have any idea what he's saying?
Well, we do have, so a lot of the solutions are built with API layers that allow you to embed this in different like pieces. So I'm not sure. There are some options, Dimitri, and certainly reach out to the team, especially when you get into brokerages that are providing CMA. Sometimes they incorporate this into their tech stack in different ways. We obviously have it for in certain MLSs. It's a member benefit in certain MLSs, and so, but yeah, happy to discuss it further with you. Okay, so next, let's see, informed process. So again, this is where you're building that trust in that content. So a lot of this is proprietary, so you can, again, build out things that, inform about how you are going to be presenting them and all the things that you're going to do. I know there's tools out there like Raise and some others that really kind of highlight all of the different pieces and steps that the buyer brokers go through and all of the expenses that they're incurring when they're going through this process. Same thing on the seller side. But basically, this is also where, to your point, you can educate them on the changes in the process of what's going on and what to expect throughout the entire journey of buying their property. Let's see. In the presentation, we have lots of not canned data, but data that you can plug in, visual market trends, property comparisons, timelines, all kinds of things that are really helping you go on. In Florida, we are buyer heavy, so lots and lots of listings. So we're in a buyer's market. In certain areas, I know it's still a seller's market, and so it's very different based on the market. But in this case, there's different types of content for this market compared to maybe the Northeast, where they're still in that seller's market. And so buyers have a lot more tools now, or a lot more ways and things that they can do to negotiate. There's a lot more inventory for them to choose from. So yeah, Karuna, it is definitely a buyer's market in Florida and where I'm at. But that's going to be very different in that presentation and the things that you're going to need than maybe somewhere in the Northeast where, you know, they're still selling multiple offers and selling within a couple of days of hitting the market. So so having those visual trends and really informing the buyers of what's going on is important, because the national news is not going to always tell the story right, or, you know, what they're getting. You're the professional, and you again need to be the one who's informing them about what's going on in your local market. So, you know, again, lots of prep time. You can make your own templates. That's the other cool thing. So you kind of have your own style, and you might curate it a little bit on person to person, but you can do a buyer presentation in a matter of, you know, 5 minutes. Now, I wouldn't suggest that. You probably want to spend a little bit more time preparing and getting ready. But if you want to, you can be last minute, you know, just basically pull it up, and it's going to still look very professional. It's going to still have all of the pieces that are needed to do a great presentation and, you know, a great, you know, consultation with your buyers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the market trends is really
definitely spend more than 5 minutes on it. That's what I would recommend.
Yep, absolutely. It is your job, by the way. So,
yep.
So yeah, lots of drag and drop tools. Again, if you've used Cloud CMA, lots of the same tools, very easy to use, very easy to move things in and out. If something doesn't apply, pull it out. If something does, pop it in. A lot of companies will leverage mortgage. So if you have mortgage partners, or if you have them built in, you know, in some sort of partnership with your brokerage, you know, there's ways of inserting, you know, various content and pieces from that aspect as well. We do have some LOs that are, you know, leveraging this a little bit, or, you know, kind of using various components. So it is, you know, something that can be completely customized, and it's very simple to do. So that is informing. So again, building on, you know, that first component, informing, is really providing the education, and then thirdly, getting to that agreement, or saying, okay, this is where it's at. And so to your point, it doesn't need a big you know, a big show, or like, okay, we're finally here. If you've done your job and you've done a great presentation, it should just be part of the normal flow. And it's like, okay, we're ready. Here's where, you know, here's the agreement. Here's what's involved. This is just normal business now, guys. So this is what you do. But has, you know, nice and easy tool to say, hey, I'm the professional. I'm going to get the best price for you. We're going to find the right property for you. And this is what it takes. So highlighting the benefits of committing to them or to you as their realtor, as their buyer representative. And then, you know, the ability to handle any objections. So any sort of objections, you can have ways already built in. A lot of people do that. They'll have objections to various buyer concerns built in. There are some tools already in there to overcome some of the various objections that are already, you know, that come up. So that is, you know, helpful to kind of incorporate. And, you know, altogether leaves a lasting impression that really has them, you know, has the buyers in your best interest, so that they're going to refer business, they're going to stay with you, hopefully repeat business in the future. So
these slides that you're showing, and the little images of the CMA, is that kind of how some of it looks?
It is. And, you know, we talked about it, and maybe in another session, we can actually take you through a live demo, kind of like we've done in the past with some others. But yes, this is kind of screenshots from the actual presentation. And this just goes to, you know, show, okay, this is the average square foot per price. You can pick and choose different ones. A lot of times people will come in and say, oh, well, I know that one's this price, and this one over here is a lot more expensive, even though it's down the road. Again, that's where your expertise comes in and says, well, that's because this one's been, you know, completely renovated, or, you know, this one sits on, you know, a floodplain, or whatever the case may be. You're able to inject your personalization in real time. So all this is real time, where you can drop them out, pull them in, and say,
Yeah,
hey,
that's cool.
here's where we're going. So so that's it. What's included, and this is kind of the key pieces that are included. Home buying process. Here's a very descriptive process of what's in there. Frequently asked questions. So again, we have some, but you can build your own. Negotiation guidance. So this is how we're going to go about presenting an offer. This is how we're going to negotiate with the seller to get the best price. Depending on what market you're in, how that negotiation is going to go. In, again, a seller's market, you might need to offer above list, or you might need to take some of the suggestions different than maybe in a seller's market, where you can expect a maybe lower than list price. Local market trends and affordability insights. So what exactly is going on in your market? What do you know? Role of the buyer. So what do you do? What can they expect you as their representative to perform for what they're signing in this agreement they're getting in? And then, your resume. Why should they choose you? What have other customers said about you in the past? And, how does that work? So that's all in the buyer presentation. Again, I think we have.
I love that. Let's throw that. Hey, Young, let's throw that QR code back up on the screen there. There we go. Perfect. Let me scan that and see what we got. Cool. Yeah, it goes right to the page. Mm-hmm. So, that's cool. All right. Very simple, very easy. So what is the cost of it? So you get $100 off your annual subscription, but what is the cost of this buyer consultation?
Yeah, so it does. Unlike a lot of our other products, kind of like our relationships, where it's $39 a month, super simple, regardless of everyone. This one's a little different because in certain markets, MLSs and/or associations have subsidized the cost. So when you go into your market and you select your MLS, it will basically tell you, kind of your price, but it's under a couple $100, and generally a couple $100 a year. And so this is a significant discount, probably one of the biggest discounts of any of the tool offerings. So again, another big benefit of being a LabCoat member.
Yeah, and then use LabCoat CMA at checkout to save $100 on your yearly subscription. How many weeks do they get a free trial for? Is it 14 days or?
Yep, 14 days, and definitely go and check it out.
Yeah, so play around with it, do a couple consultations, do a couple presentations within those 14 days to get a feel for it, which would be a good idea. You could fit a few of those in there over the course of 2 weeks and see what you think.
Absolutely.
That's what I think. If you get 2 weeks for free, try to get some consultations and use it.
That's the best way. Just get in there and play around with it and win some business.
100%. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Kyle, if they have any questions for you, what's the best way to get in touch?
I'm going to just drop my email in here, and they can definitely reach out to me directly, or you can always just go to our webpage and hit the contact us, and we can reach out. But feel free. I'd love to hear from some of you.
Cindy has a question. My MLS provides CMA on a benefit. I don't know what that means, but would this be part of that also? Do they provide Cloud CMA, Cindy? Because that's different. That's what I want to find out.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I'll speak broader to it because I won't be able to enter your specific MLS, but different MLSs provide different levels. So Cloud Agent Suite is multiple products of Cloud CMA. So there's things like HomeBeat, and I think we did a session on HomeBeat where it will send these out, CMAs like once a month or once a quarter. And there's different tools. Some MLSs will buy everything, and you just get it, and basically you can get that. Some MLSs will provide just Cloud CMA, and then you can go and upgrade to some of these, and that's why the price is variant. Some don't provide anything, and then that would basically where you can go and pick and choose what you want to buy.
Okay.
But yep, that's how it works. So check it out with your MLS, or just go to our website and you can plug your MLS in, and it will tell you,
Oh, that's cool. All right,
what you get and what you don't get based on your MLS.
Perfect.
Cool.
Well, I love it. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you being here as always. Lots of value you guys are coming out with, so I'd like to see that. Everyone have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, Nick.